Okay, welcome to part three of creating a custom data table in Lightning Web Components. We've been working on revamping the opportunity contact roles edit page, and we'll just be continuing on with this video. We've done these three in the last video. We wired the component to the opportunity record and the opportunity contact roles. And we did wire out the role pick list values. We also did a bit of refactoring as well. So now we're going to move on to the actual DMLs. So we'll get right into it. All right, so we have our op contact roles edit page. And I think the first thing we need to do here is, in case you didn't know, you could actually highlight, put your cursor over a Lightning Web component, the markup, and you press F12. It'll actually bring you to um, the files for that markup, which is nice. And then you just double click there, and then you can go straight to that JavaScript file. So the first thing we want to do is we want to dispatch some events up from the op contact role row up to the roles edit parent component. So this will help us. This will allow this parent component to control all the data. We do want the responsibility of storing all of the data and manipulating most of the data at the parent level. And the only job of the child should really be passing out changes to a particular role record, our contact role record. There shouldn't be too much logic in here in terms of data manipulation. All right, so we will go to this area here. We'll do an on change, handle contact change, and we have handle role change there already. And we will add on change is equal to handle primary change. And we will do the same here, where we will now add our methods that will handle these events. Handle contact change, handle role change, and primary change. I think this should be good. And we don't want to do this. Let's just console.log everything. I'm not sure this is right, but I guess we'll find out. And let's find out what we're logging here. Oh, what? Okay, I don't know if that's right, but I guess we'll find out. Let's open up our Chrome DevTools. And let's see what happens here. So handle, okay, so this seems to work. False. Decision maker, back to business user, evaluator, okay. And this one, Malachi Quarterly. That did not work. So now we'll have to look it up. Picker. Change events. Record ID. Okay, so that's what we need to reference. Record ID. So let's just make sure that that works before we continue. And let's go back to Malachi. And there we go. Cool. So that works. So we know that we could handle our on-change events, and we don't really want to do anything within this component. We do want to pass these values up to the parent. As I said before, we want the parent to be responsible for sourcing and modifying the data, and any DML should really happen at that level rather than at this row level. Just dispatch event, or new custom event, contact change. We don't need this bubbles. We do want detail. We want the record. Oh, we want I want this to be the contact ID. We want this to be contact role ID, which will be this. I guess we'll be consistent and just call it contact role ID. Okay, that looks right. And we could sort of do the same thing for each of these. Super Maven should give me exactly what I want here. Dispatch event. And obviously there is some room for refactoring here. These dispatch events are very similar. We have, the different event name, but then the detail will always have this contact role ID, and the only thing different will be this other attribute here. And this should be is primary. That makes more sense. Everything else should be fine. This is not role ID. This should be role. So always be checking what the Copilot gives you. It's really nice because I don't have to type all this out. I don't have to copy and paste it and change things. But you do need to look at this and review it to make sure that what it's giving you is actually correct. All right, so these events are now going to get dispatched, and to make sure that this works, we need to capture these events. So on contact change, all right, it's reading my mind. It's great. And then here, we will go ahead and let's just handle contact change. Primary and role. We don't want to do add quite yet. Yes, that looks fine. Okay, so now let's see. Well, I have handle contact change 2 times. Let's just say at the parent level. All right, let's see if this works. So parent handle primary change. Really weird. Why would this show up second? Because handle primary change is here. Oh, because I'm dispatching the event first and then calling console.log. Okay, but let's check what's in this object. Obviously, I don't see anything because it's a proxy. There is a way to see it if we use debug mode, but I really just don't like debug mode. It just crowds out this space a little too much. So I just prefer to just copy and paste this and see it like this. All right, so that seems to have worked. If I click this again, that should be false. And if I change this to business user, great. And of course, let's just check this out. Should work just fine. Awesome. All right, so that all seems to work. We are adding some on-change events, handling them, and then dispatching them up. The parent is now handling those events that are being passed up. And I think our event capturing here is working fine. So I think this is a good time to commit. All right. Okay, so from here, what we want to do now is we want to store all these changes somewhere. So we need to know what has changed so that we know eventually when they click save, when the user clicks save, what's going to go back to the server. So let's go ahead and just add a changed array here. All right, so this will hold all of our changes, and each of these entries within this array will be or a JavaScript object of said changes, including the contact role ID and whatever other fields that have changed. So first we need to know whether, so this event.detail will have, we'll just do the event.detail is equal. Obviously we're not going, this is not real code. I just want to show you what's inside of here. So this will be up contact role ID equals some type of ID, right? And then it'll have a contact ID like that. So that's what's going to be inside this event.detail. So what I want to do is I want to make sure that this contact role ID is, check whether it's in here already or not. If it's already in here, I want to replace what's currently in that entry with and add on this contact ID. Otherwise, I want to add a new entry to this array. So how do I do that? First, I got to check whether that array has that value, right? So I need to loop through it. So the best way to do this is probably to find index item dot contact role ID is equal to this contact role ID, and then const index if index is -1, then I can just push this event.detail. Otherwise, this isn't exactly right. What I want is I want to add on to what is currently at this index. So what I will probably do here is this, yes, and then this, okay. So in case you don't know what this syntax is, it's the spread operator. It just deconstructs whatever attributes are within here, and it creates a new JavaScript object. And then I'm doing the same thing with event.detail. And if the attributes are the same, then it'll just overwrite it with the last thing that you spread. So, say this dot underscore change index had a contact role ID equal to this, and it also had a role called business user. And so if I use a spread operator on both of these, the resulting JSON object will be this and this, right? And say what was in change index was actually contact ID 123, and this is event.detail, then the resulting JSON object that ends up here will be this. Okay, so hopefully that makes sense. This console.log is the underscore change. Oh, and I do like to add underscores for any variables that won't be accessed within the UI. So these should be accessed in the UI, so that's why there's no underscore there. So this is my way of saying, hey, this is private. This is only going to be used within the controller class, not within the view. Okay, so let's see if this worked. Okay, looks like that worked. I think that contact ID is Malachi Corley. Let's just make sure. Yes, it is. Okay, so that looks good. If I change this one to Malachi, obviously we can't have two of the same contact, but just for demonstration purposes. And we see that, yes, that seems to work. Great. I actually don't like this syntax. It's, I think that we could probably improve this a little bit. Or not the syntax, but this logic, this algorithm. I feel like we can change this a little bit. Okay, so I think we could do the same thing for primary. and role change. So let's go ahead and do that. Right, this is always the same. This is always the same. This is actually all exactly the same. So let's just ensure that that is the case. And then we could start refactoring this. All right, if we know that works, so let's try decision maker and primary and economic buyer and non-primary. So now if we look at this array, what we should get is two entries in the array. Contact ID should not be in any of those objects that are in this array. One should have decision maker primary, and the other should have economic buyer, and primary is false. Great. All right, so this works. It's great. So before I commit, I think I will actually. No, let's just commit now. Okay. So from here, I think the best thing to do is just. I think we could just say high handle contact role change, right? So we could just have our one handler for the events that are being dispatched to us. All right, we simplify that with a 1. And then here, we could just say handle contact role change, handle contact role change, contact role change. Boom, boom, and boom. Okay, so let's see this latest array here. Great. Changes to false. False. Great. All right, so that works. The next thing I can probably do is basically have one change event that is being passed up versus all of these. It's probably better that way, just in case we may add another field to the row. And if we don't want to keep adding events onto here, it's best to just have one on contact role change event that we could just handle the same way for all of them. And if there are some special cases, then we would add a new event, but I don't think we need that for now. So let's do that. And then here, we could just do on contact role change. And we pass it the detail, right? So all of this should just work. Let's do this again. Let's do this one. Malachi. Let's do business user, and let's do that. So this should have 3 rows. Great. Contact ID role in is primary. Amazing. Okay, so that all works. And here, as you can see, these are also very similar. The only thing that is different is this one attribute that's being passed in. So I think what we can do is just create a method here called dispatch contact role change event. And here we'll just dispatch event. Now this event detail I don't think should include this, since this will always be the same. It only needs to include this. So I think what we'll do here is this and then this. And we'll use a spread operator. We could dispatch this up. And let's go ahead and change all of these Dispatch. Yes, is primary. Yes. Do the same thing here. Same thing here. Copilot is my friend. I really love it. I really love Super Maven. I highly recommend it. It really cuts down on the typing that I need to do because I know exactly what I need to do. It just takes time to type it out. A good Copilot is a good autocomplete. Is the best way I'll put it. All right, so we save this. Let's go ahead and test it out. So we'll change this one to Malachi. We'll also make it primary, and then we'll make this an economic decision maker. So this should have two entries in our array, and this looks right to me. Great. And say I did change this to decision maker, and we could see that it's decision maker, and then if I change this back to false, it should show as false. Great. Okay, so that looks all good. Yeah, and we could also go further and maybe make one change event, but then we'd have to pepper our HTML with some type of like data dash field in here. So I think we're between a rock and a hard place. So it's better just to put in the JavaScript, in my opinion. Now that we had that handled, I think we can just commit this. Consolidate methods. Okay, one thing I do want to do, again, F12 should bring me directly here, is this, to me, looks a bit messy. I don't really like how this code looks. I think it's probably a little bit hard to follow, not super hard, but I think we can make this a little bit better and a little bit faster. I mean, I don't think performance really matters here. There's only going to be so many op contact roles that we need to process. So this isn't really for premature optimization. It's really for readability. Right, so what I want to do is instead I want to have an object where I have, so this is like a poor man's map in Apex. This object will hold, each of the attributes will be a contact role ID, and then that attribute will have another JSON object that holds what's currently in this .change index. So how will we go about doing this? So we could just say this dot underscore changed, and yes, we want that to be equal to this dot be changed. I think that's it. That's all we need. So let's constant that out. Is equal to okay, so what am I doing here? So I'm just trying to get, so this syntax is, it's better, I guess it's better just to say, so this will just be like the contact role ID. So this will be like 003, whatever it is. And then that's going to have this. Contact role ID, some contact ID, primary, some role, right, whatever it is, decision maker. So this is the structure of what this dot underscore change is going to have. This is just a dynamic way of referencing an attribute. So I could have actually just done something like this. So this is a, right. So that I don't know if it could start with a number, but so this is pretend there was an alphabet at the beginning here. Um, you know how you would usually access an attribute on an object, or another way to do it is this way, right? And then you could also replace a string with an actual variable, which will be my contact role ID. So hopefully that made sense. I know I sort of struggled through that explanation. Um, but yeah, that's how you would populate this JavaScript object. And then I'm using a spread operator on that particular um, attribute, the contents of that attribute. If it doesn't exist, then this spread operator will just not do anything. And then anything within event.detail will overwrite any similar attributes from here. Right, so I think this is much more elegant. Look at that. We reduced our code by probably about 65% for this method. Let's make sure this works though. Okay, primary, decision, non-primary, business. Great. And let's just change this to Malachi. And this should now have 3 entries. Great. All right, so that seems to all work. Awesome. Okay, so I want to commit this refactor handling to use. Um, just FYI, there is actually a map type within JavaScript, but let's not complicate things when we don't need to. This works just fine. Now that we have all of our changed data, the next step is to save. So let's go ahead and add a handle save. I don't know if Super Maven is listening to me or not, but it's a little bit crazy. All right, let's well, we know what's in there. We know that's right. So we don't need to console log like that. But we do need a server-side controller method. Roles edit controller. And we need an R enabled update out contact roles. Well, I don't want to call it update because we will be adding and deleting as well. So we'll call it save out contact roles. But yes, for now, we will be updating the out contact roles. Okay, and then here, update save contact roles. This dot changed. Yes, and no, we don't want to use the raw promises. Let's use async await. And then of course we need our try block. Anytime we hit the database, we should really wrap it in a try and a catch. For now, yeah, let's just go ahead and console.error that. We shouldn't need this anymore. And let's see if this saves. So let's just open up this contact role, and we have contact.name, and we have role, and we have is primary. Okay, so if we go here and change this to decision maker, well, we need a save button. Can't forget that now, can we? Button. Save, yes. So both of these shouldn't be brands. They should probably be outline, brand, save, click brand, and let's add a class here. Class is equal to not left but right. Should it go on the last button or the first button? I guess it should go on the last button. Class is equal to SLDS and left underscore so small. There's our save button. Change this to decision maker and save. And we get an error. Value provided is invalid. What does it say? Fraction parameter, right? Because is that change the object, the values. So this that change is a JSON object, obviously. So we just want to get the values of those attributes. So this will just change this into an array and treat each attribute as an element within the array. Okay, let's refresh. Let's just try this out. Okay, what is it now? Pagers, missing argument ID not specified in an update call. Right, because this changed. Right, so log changed. Right, so the server-side controller is expecting real API field names here. Obviously, these are not right. I don't know if it's case sensitive, but I should really make this uppercase as well. So yeah, I think we could just change it here. Right, so we want to pass up the ID because we know that the event is contact role change. So having this as ID, I think, is okay. We're not really losing any information. And let's just make these all capital. All right. Okay, I think that worked. So now Quentin Williams should be a decision maker. Great, amazing. So that works. Let's see the data functionality. Okay, one thing I do want to do is I do want to add a spinner. So let's just add it. LWC if is equal to is saving. I feel like I need like an alternate text here. Alternative text equals saving. LWC if. And here I will probably need an acid. Okay. And here, class is equal to SLDS is relative. Oh, you always have to add this, otherwise the spinner is going to go outside of its container and it's just going to look real janky. So, no. Oh, right, because I actually need to add this into my JavaScript. It's false. And here, we'll go this that is saving is true. And then when we catch something, this that is saving is false. And then this that is saving false. And I should add a return here. We definitely want to do this. I know right now we have nothing after this try, but if there was some enhancement or some other thing that we needed to add here in the future, uh, people may very well forget to make sure to return after catching this error. And if this save fails, then processing should really stop and shouldn't go on as if it succeeded. So you definitely do want to return here. Any error processing you do within the catch, and then you should return. You shouldn't be doing anything else in here. Um, okay. Business user save. Okay. See that spinner going? It's a little bit fast, but seems to be working. Let's try some multiple ones here. And we'll change this to business user. I'll make them all business user. Save. Let's just make sure that works. Now I got quarterly business. No, that did not work. Why? Undefined. Why is that undefined? And why is there only one? Because this is ID. Me. Okay, let's try this again. So this is primary, business user, business user, business user. I'll make this Aaron. Okay. So now Quinnen, Aaron, and Brees should all be business users. Great. And Quinnen is true. Amazing. One other thing, I think we should make sure that we are showing a proper error message to the user if the save does fail. So I think we can make this fail. Let's just make sure. So if I had two primaries, this should fail. No? Well, it just silently succeeds. That's wonderful. What if I have two Aaron Rodgers? I can actually have that. Interesting. Well, I can't make this fail. I think I could just force it to fail. So let's just change this into some, so that we're in a better state here. Okay, great. Let's just force it to fail so that we could test out our error handling. Contact role controller. Just to throw a new error handle exception. Okay, so now if you save, get the error. If you notice, I didn't have to refresh the page because anything that happens at the apex level, at the server-side level, you don't need to refresh because nothing has changed in the JavaScript. And cool, so we got the not implemented. So how to handle this error? We want to show something to the user. So we need a show toast event. But how best to get this message out of here? I feel like there's so many different error messages available within LWCs. If you implement just one way to do it, then another type of error will not show up. So what I do is I just get something from the internet. This Git repo is pretty good. For those that don't know about it, I highly recommend just looking through it for anything that you might need. I'm just going to take directly from the one place that I need it. I think it's called base utils, yes. And then in here we have a function called reduce errors. So this will flatten out any errors and just have a nice array of strings, as you can see here. And I'm going to actually take that comment as well, since then I'll know the type. Okay, so I will create my own base utils in here. Base utils. I guess I gotta export this. Cool. And then from there, let's commit this base utils first. Don't need the HTML. Yep. And then I will reduce errors down here. So this is probably the first step, this is second step, and then reduce errors, whatever the error is. And so just passing it whatever we catch will give us a string of errors. And then we can do a this.dispatch event, new show toast event, variant error, saving contact roles. Of course, we need to import this, import. Okay, so we could add these to the top here. Yeah, I like to just order these so that the non-default exports show up at the top, and then the default ones show up here. And something is wrong because this is not right. Great. And let's see this error out. Great, not implemented. Amazing. So now that we know that works, we can just go ahead and do that. So we implemented the spinner. We were able to save, and we were able to implement some error handling. Add spinner plus error handling. Unsave. And I think one other thing that we want to do here is once we save, and this is a good thing that we did do the return here, because I want to reset the changed member variable. So once we save, we can clear that out because everything is saved to the server and we should be in sync. Any additional changes that they make, we'll just get a fresh changed variable that they can put stuff in. So let's go ahead and commit that, set successful, save. All right, so I think we're in a good stopping point here. So after this, we just got to do the add and the delete. The add's going to be, I think, a little bit tough because we don't have an ID, but we'll work through it. But I think we'll end it here. Any questions or comments, please feel free to leave one. I'll see you in the next one.